Today's lesson on how to invest in real estate is all about RV storage. There may be more to RV storage parking than you might really realize. Did you know that there are different types of RV storage spaces? Did you know that there are certain elements that every RV storage should include? And then I'm going to tell you why I really like RV storage over a lot of other storage choices as far as income goes. Let's talk about 4 different spaces that you might have to think about when you're going into the RV parking storage business. Number 1 is just open storage, where people park their RV out underneath the blue sky and in the elements. Number 2, it's a little more popular, and for good reason. These rigs are expensive and they don't want sun damage, hail damage, and being rained on, etc., etc. So the next one I like a lot is covered parking, where they pull underneath a carport. It's still open air kind of sort of, but at least it doesn't get hailed on and there's shade from the sun. Then number 3, there's private stalls. Now we get into more expense. You notice we went from almost no expense in open parking to a little bit of expense in covered parking, and now we're going to a more expensive place where you have to enclose the whole entire RV and probably put it on concrete. Although I've seen storage spaces that were on dirt or caliche or asphalt, but again, these rigs are very expensive. $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, up to $1 million or more. And these people want to park on concrete, I do believe. I mean, if you had that kind of wealth, wouldn't you want concrete? So the private stall is the most expensive until we get to choice number 4, which was private stall plus office or loft, which is more like a man cave, which is starting to be a trend right now. I don't know how long it'll last, but I've seen these man caves where people have their RV storage area. They're backing these 50-foot rigs into the space, and then they have their loft where they have their sofa and their TV, and they can watch the football game, and they can kind of dilly-dally on their RV in between glasses of wine and their sporting events on HGTV, or whatever. So the man cave is even more expensive still. But you have to put these facilities in certain areas. Now, where would you put these facilities and what kind of amenities do you need to include? Number 1, you're going to have to put it in a more expensive part of town or a more expensive area because, let's face it, these RVs are not cheap, and it wouldn't make any sense to have a very elaborate RV parking place on the poor side of town. The wealthy people I know, they're not going to drive far, and they're certainly not going to go through the lesser parts of town to get where they're going to park their $650,000 rig. The amenities are pretty simple, but they have to have, obviously, electric. They should be on concrete, or they should at least have concrete pads where the tires of their rig can sit. No RV owner wants to leave their tires on dirt. It's just not good. Also, you might want to have some outlets close to where the engine might be so that there can be a pulse timer for batteries. This will keep the batteries charged up so that when they show up after 4 months of not driving the rig, it'll still start. It's also important that you understand at least the sizes of these spaces. So if you're doing a closed-in stall, and you can condense this a little bit width-wise if you're doing open parking or covered parking, but if you're doing a private closed-in stall, you'll need at least 14 feet wide with at least a 12-foot wide door hole. And that door will have to be at least 14 feet tall. If you go 14 feet tall, you're almost assured to get anything in it that you would be called about, because as you drive down the highway, if you notice when you go under bridges, they're usually like 13.6, 13.8 is the height of these bridges on almost all of our highways. So if you do 14 feet, you're covered. The length of these stalls should be, the longest a rig is 55 feet. That doesn't mean we need to build our stall 55 feet. These people are into luxury and convenience and don't want to feel like this. One is they don't want to have to be so careful with an $800,000 rig that they don't scratch it or hit something. But also they want to be able to walk around it with ease so that they can buff and polish or do whatever the maintenance it is that they want to do. So you'll want to leave 5 feet at least in the back and 5 feet in the front. So the minimum length of a space should be about 65 feet. I personally would go to 70, but the minimum is 5 feet in front, then 55 feet for the rig, and then 5 feet in back. Another thing that's important to know is how much distance do we need between buildings? How much turnaround room do we need? Now, if the buildings are angled at a 30% angle, you can get by with 45 feet between the buildings. But if the buildings are perpendicular to each other, then you're going to need at least 60 feet between buildings. And the electrical service for these should be at least 20 amp, but I prefer to go the extra mile and do 30 amps. Make sure your electrical service can handle 30 amps. And if you want to separate your RV storage from the herd, then create a couple of stalls that everybody can use that are 20 foot wide, 60 foot long, 15 foot tall, and covered with a 50 amp service. Also make sure that it includes vacuum cleaning and maybe some power washing supplies so they can rinse and wipe down the outside. The reason why you would go to 50 amp in this one instead of 20 or 30 amp in the regular stalls. This is a spot where people can go and clean their rig and do some maintenance and actually have a rig that's not running but can still function. That's why this one has to have 50 amps, not 20 or 30 like the stalls, because we have to be able to make these slide outs slide out. We need this rig to do everything without the power of the engine. So you're going to have to up the amperage in the electric to 50 in this area. Again, so that they can do functions without the engine running. So before I explain to you why I really like RV parking over a lot of other choices, let me ask you, if you've enjoyed these kind of conversations or if this is helpful, to hit that like button. Can I ask you to hit that like button for me? Thank you very much. And please share this with other people. There's a big world out there that doesn't even know we exist. And if we're going to be helpful to them, and I know we will, we need you to share it so they can find us. Also, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. There is a lot of content coming in the near future. Now we're going to close out this episode with a little opinion of mine. And that is, I like RV storage over most storage choices because it's a high dollar, very dependable customer that we're reaching out to. When you get an RV storage in the right place and it has the right amount of spaces and it fills up, it is good for a long time. And there is virtually hardly any problems with that clientele. I mean, they pay like a clock. They stay for long periods of time. The collateral that you have inside your storage business, and when I say collateral, you know, if someone doesn't pay you, you overlock a very expensive rig inside there. And you're holding that rig as hostage until you get paid. This rig is worth a small fortune. It's worth more than a lot of people's houses, okay? And they can't get to it until they settle up with you. If they don't settle up with you and you foreclose, then the bank that they owe the payments to has to come and make right with you before they can pick up their collateral and repossess the RV from the guy who's not paying you. I suspect very strongly someone's going to pay the back rent for this thing before it's all over with. But wouldn't it be nice if they didn't and you picked up a $400,000 RV? Now I want to send out a little word of caution here. It's all about location. Location, location, location. If you put this RV storage in the right location, you're going to be a very successful person. If you put it in the wrong place, you could be struggling very hard for a very long time, and it won't be good. So I want to bring to your attention that there are companies out there that will analyze the demographics specifically for this use. And they will tell you thumbs up or thumbs down. Okay? Now these demographic analysis are not really cheap, but let's say the last one I paid for was about $6,000. They told me not to do it. That was disappointing, and I was out $6,000. But the complex was going to cost me $1.8 million, and if it was a failure, it would have been horrible. Horrible, horrible. So I did not build RV storage there. I did ask them, however, what could I put there? I already own the land. I have to do something with it. And then they showed me that just plain open parking would fill the ticket and that there wasn't enough open parking all around me, and I would probably get that entire market or fill up pretty quickly. So I switched from RV parking to open parking, even though I preferred the RV parking. The demographic analysis told me what to do, and I trusted that they were right in their assessment. And they gave me all the reasons why. The area was saturated. They weren't able to get enough money per stall. The cost of the construction. Lack of traffic for my particular location. There was a whole bunch of reasons why they told me it wouldn't work. And after looking at it, I believed them. So I made a different decision. And I think that $5,000 that I spent on that analysis was well worth it. And we'll really never really know how much I would have lost if I had done an RV storage. But suffice to say, I was going to lose more than $5,000 by a long shot. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and for sticking around and listening to it all the way to the end, I want to give you a free download of a chapter in my book called The Moat Theory. And the moat theory is a little theory I developed when I was trying to come up with an answer to how am I going to go through life knowing that I'm going to fail, but not go under? How can I fail and not go under? Because I know I'm going to fail. So where do I set my parameters? What's the goal? How do I work through this life and through this entrepreneurialism with failure as the plan, but not as something that's going to destroy me? And so I developed a little theory called the moat theory, and it's about how to fail forward. And I think you'll appreciate it. To get that digital download, just go to 1000houses.com, scroll through the free stuff there on the homepage, and click on the Moat Theory. You'll have it digitally downloaded in just a second. All right, this is Mitch Stephen. Thank you for joining in, and I'm off to the next episode. Come on.